2023.
Is that like a reference to something?
No. First episode of Hell Money Podcast of 2023. The new year. Aaron, astrologically speaking, what does the new year bring us?
What I've been telling people about 2023 is the craziest astrology since 2020.
Oh, okay.
So,
it's crazier or it's not as crazy?
I would say it's different. Like, it might be a little crazier in some aspects and a little less crazy in other aspects. So I think it's more like it's going to be like a similar level of like tumultuousness.
I mean, so what does it mean specifically for the Hell Money Podcast? I think this is what the people want to know.
For the Hell Money Podcast.
Yeah. 2023, astrologically speaking. Where's the Hell Money Podcast going?
I don't know. I kind of feel like the Hell Money Podcast success is like directly correlated to the price of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, like the bull run is going to start. The next bull run is going to start. And everybody's going to be like, never heard of Bitcoin before. And they're going to search for like Bitcoin podcast. And maybe a few people will click to like the second page of Google search results, which is where like we'll be. Yeah. Maybe, I mean, honestly, maybe we should put Bitcoin in the title.
I think it detracts overall.
I think it detracts, but what about SEO? What about search engine optimization?
That's what I'm saying. I think search engine optimization like does not optimize for Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, we have
because like when we're like democracy, capitalism,
well, but
then
also
like the search engine's like woo.
Well, but yeah, so if you look at our YouTube channel,
you check out our analytics
at Hell Money Pod. You can go check out our episodes. All our episodes are captured in vibrant video on YouTube. If you look at the view count, what Aaron's referring to is that the two episodes that we did, one about democracy, one about capitalism, are some of our highest viewed episodes. And so we sort of have a theory that the YouTube algorithm does shadow banning us, doesn't like Bitcoin content. But also, those were the two episodes where we wore costumes.
Yeah, so it's hard to say.
It might be the case just that like people love a fabulous vibe.
So maybe we need to do a Bitcoin themed episode with costumes and see what happens.
Yeah.
But what would we even like? Like one of us could dress up as like gold, you know,
no,
like
no, I think it doesn't. Like I think it should be like a little random. Like I can be like Genghis Khan and you can be Thomas Jefferson, or we can both be like. Okay. That's Aaron is throwing that on the maybe pile. No, like 14th century courtiers from like a French court with like wigs and shit.
Oh, yeah. I want to be like a Venetian, like
really high class hoe.
Yeah, a courtesan.
yeah.
Wearing like a corset and like a hoop skirt.
Yeah, they had fancy words for hoes back then. You know, like concubine.
Yeah, courtesan.
Courtesan. Yeah. Wait, isn't a courtesan just like somebody who's in the court?
No. Courtesan is like the prostitute that's like intellectual.
Oh, okay. So it's somebody who's in the court and they're giving up that ass.
It's like the men are discussing like the various geopolitical strategies, and then like the courtesans are there and they like might throw in a couple words or like read a poem, provide some entertainment, do a dance.
Sure. Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Yeah.
Women of culture and art.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Okay, so we, whatever, brainstorming for new episodes in 2023. What is this episode about, Casey? We still haven't introed.
This episode is about when will the next bull market start?
When will the next bull market start?
So yeah, let's little history, right? We're in the middle of a bear market. I always think the bear market, bull market label is a little weird. Like Bitcoin's at 16K. That's a lot. Like that's a lot. The market cap is like $500 billion. Like that's a lot. It's still, small for where we all think the potential of Bitcoin goes, but compared to 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it's massive. So,
do you know what the origin of bull versus bear is?
I don't know. I think bulls just represent, exuberance, charging, investor exuberance, animal spirits,
Taurus energy.
Yeah, and bears are scary.
Yeah, right.
Bears are like,
but don't bears also like charge and show aggression? Like I would think like snail market or something, like bull market, snail market.
It's just not threatening enough. The bad thing needs to be capable of killing you, not like
taking you out,
not just like going along very slowly. Yeah.
What about like snake market? Like it needs to be like a sleeper spider market.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I actually, I thought that bull market, bear market was kind of silly, but now that you're giving me some alternatives, I'm like,
damn,
yeah,
let's
maybe
just stick with
maybe
bull bear.
market is okay. Yeah, but yeah. So okay, so little Bitcoin bull market, bear market history. Bitcoin was first released in early Genesis block is early 2009.
It was just Bitcoin's birthday the other day, January 3rd.
Nice, yeah. So price Bitcoin originally didn't have a price, right? It was just released on this like mailing list. Some nerds saw it. Hal Finney ran it. Otherwise, it was super quiet, and it didn't have a price for a while. It didn't have a price for a long time because things don't just have prices. Prices only really get established as people transact for things, right? Like you can. I was watching a YouTube video about some guys who are in the rare watch trade, and he was saying like, yeah, like markets, the price for a watch doesn't get established until that model of watch trades hands a bunch of times on the secondary market and sort of learn what the price is. So yeah, Bitcoin entered like initial price discovery. The first transaction, I forget when it was the pizza transaction, which was when somebody bought 2, I think, Papa John's pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin.
So was that 9 or was that way later?
I don't think that was way later.
Because block 9 was the first block that had like a transaction on it, right?
Yeah, let me see. I can look this up. Bitcoin.
Fact checking.
Yeah, Bitcoin
5.
pizza transact. Really exciting for the people at home listening to Google.
Listening to us just type out loud.
Bitcoin pizza day. Yeah, it happened in 2010. So
that's like a year later.
yeah, like a year later, which kind of makes sense. That's about right.
Yeah.
And that was really just like among enthusiasts. And then Bitcoin started to. Sorry, let me turn off my phone. It's vibrating in my pocket over here.
He's just getting notification after notification.
Blowing up.
People just can't stop talking about inscriptions.
Yeah, not talking about
ordinals.
inscriptions. Yeah. But so then Bitcoin, the pizza day transaction, and then I think it stayed under $1 for a while. I'm just going to kind of like make this up.
All right, go for it.
Yeah, I think it stayed under $1 for a
Misinformation
while.
on Hell Money podcast.
Yeah, it was a big deal when Bitcoin reached dollar parity. I think that happened in like 2011 or something.
When do you think Dogecoin will reach dollar parity?
Dogecoin will never reach dollar parity. Doge is a shit coin. Although humorously, like Dogcoin is now a genre of shitcoin.
I told you, I'm bullish.
Like there's Dogecoin, there's like Sheeb, and then there's Bonk. And like literally like dumb dog cryptocurrency is now a genre. Not just a single like thing. There's no longer a single exemplar. It's a category.
I think memeability of like your brand is important in
Absolutely.
crypto.
Yep.
And I think like, people give Elon a lot of shit for being on Doge and not on Bitcoin, but the man is a meme lord,
Yep.
and that's what he's looking for. The Bitcoin memes are lacking.
They are.
They're a little more esoteric often.
Yeah. I agree. I think Bitcoin has a lot of image problems. Like I think that, and obviously like I'm a Bitcoin like stan. I think Bitcoin is the best. I want Bitcoin to win, but I think that some of the design around Bitcoin is a little lacking. I think the name is pretty bad. Like Bitcoin, like that just sounds like fucking lame. If I was gonna start over, I would name Bitcoin Ethereum. Like I think Ethereum is a much better name.
Yeah, I kind of like that Bitcoin's simple.
The thing is that I think it does not appeal to people. It's the kind of a name that appeals to like gold bugs and like the hard money people.
Sure.
And I think that actually you want Bitcoin to have a name that appeals to normies, but properties.
Like Doge.
No, not like Doge, like Ethereum. Like, oh, it's this like magical like thing. It's this magical like internet money, like not like Bitcoin. So you want.
I think Bitcoin sticks in your mind more than Ethereum, though.
I'm actually not sure. Well,
whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Marketing.
What do we know?
What do we know? Marketing people get at us. But then also a lot of the Bitcoin art I think is terrible. Like the orange bee.
The orange is really.
I think the orange is fine. I think the problem with the art is that it's self-referential. Is that like it's just like drawing the bee logo in different ways. But
whatever.
You
can't be hating on art when you're launching a Bitcoin art project.
Yeah, but the ordinals art hopefully won't be so self-referential.
Fair.
It'll be art for art's sake.
It'll be a Doge.
No, I mean probably some Doges, a lot of Pepes probably.
Yeah,
We already got
I
some,
hope so.
We already got some on-chain Pepes.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. Now it's really, this is the beginning of the bull run.
Yeah, that's the beginning.
On-chain Pepes.
Yeah. So, okay. So then I think around 2013, the Bitcoin maybe had some ups and downs. 2013, the price was, I think, around like $80 to $90. And I'm not going to remember this correctly, but then there was this like run up to like between 100 and 200, I believe. And then there was the Mt. Gox crash, and I think it crashed to above 100. And then there was 2017. I'm getting these dates up, but there's been a number of bull runs. I think the previous bull run was up to like, should really look this up, but whatever. We've
18K was like the 2017, 2018 one.
That's right. There was a 2017, 2018, maybe like 19K or something.
Whatever. Around, it was 18, 19.
And then most recently it was 2021 where we went up to like 69K or something.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, pretty nice.
Doge went up to 69 cents.
What a fucking trash coin. Jesus Christ.
When
People
Bitcoin
buy
hits
fucking
100K,
anything.
Doge reaches dollar parity.
Yeah, Doge yeah.
You don't want to know what the world looks like.
Doge better reach like sat parity. That's when it's correctly priced, is when one Doge equals one sat. And then after that we had this dramatic decline, and now we're back at 16K, and obviously everybody's kind of wondering when the next bull market is going to start.
When to the moon.
Yeah, and I think that like these cycles are influenced both by fundamental factors changing and by a narrative developing that people can kind of rally behind that drives the market higher. Right? So there's like the real component of it, like Bitcoin getting more adoption, becoming more useful, becoming more mature. And then there's this like froth component to it, which is just a narrative that people can believe in and causes them to like buy in.
I think we've been working with mostly froth.
Yeah, there's been a lot of froth.
Like, I mean, I feel like there's validity to institutional adoption and, Lightning Network type things. But I feel like in terms of price action, like we really have not seen much actual content. I like when I think about like, people being like, oh, institutions adopting Bitcoin affecting the price. Like the thing that I think of the most is like Elon saying that Tesla was going to buy Bitcoin or accept Bitcoin for Teslas, which is still kind of just meme froth.
Yeah. I think a lot of the fundamental stuff is very quiet.
That's what I mean.
So for example, like one piece of fundamentals that I'd say that's probably influenced previous cycles is like hardware wallets getting better, software wallets getting better, people getting more experience with the protocol, more software engineers being around that can do Bitcoin development, people adopting it in very quiet ways, individuals using it to move money, individuals between themselves, across borders, and there hasn't been huge public examples of that, but I think it's kind of slow and it's in the background,
Yeah, I could see.
Whereas the froth is like in your face.
Well, I think the difference is probably like adoption versus price action. Like, I feel like those sort of technical improvements could increase Bitcoin adoption.
Right.
And like allow for more, like Lightning Network, whatever,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
allow for more people to use it more regularly or easily.
Yep.
But that doesn't necessarily correlate to price action. Right.
Yeah.
I feel like price action is, as I said, like more like frothy kind of like meme stuff. It has, I think it has more to do with like interest rates and like what the Fed is doing.
Yeah, there's a lot to that too. Yeah, and Bitcoin tends to move with other investments, right?
Yeah.
It hasn't really proven itself as being very different from other speculative risk-on
People
investments.
treat it like a volatile, risky asset that they buy a lot of when they have lots of, room for risk, basically, which was the vibe of 2020 into 2021.
Yeah. And I think that will eventually not be the case. I think that eventually Bitcoin will just kind of decouple from that. But Bitcoin is intended to be a stable, secure, long-term store of value. But it's still in the price discovery phase. It's still in the adoption and the price discovery phase. And so, if you look at, the Bitcoin's price, it's going to have this long period where it's doing price discovery. And then over time, it's just going to shift to the stable store of value kind of asset class. And then it'll sort of have different properties.
Right.
Yeah.
So when does that happen?
So, I mean, let's talk about narratives for past bull runs.
Okay.
So I think there was like a mini bull run around like Well, there's the 2017 bull run, and that was all ICOs. That was all like ICO shitcoin, like froth.
Can you give a description of ICO?
Yeah, sure. An ICO is an initial coin offering, and so it's just a bunch of like devs, usually VC backed, making a bunch of tokens, either on Ethereum or on a different like public blockchain. And the reason that a lot of those happened is because due to some of the ambiguity. Okay, so when a VC invests in a startup, they put in their money and they have to wait quite a long time to get their money back. The startup needs to find product market fit, develop a product, and really the big liquidity event is going public, right? When the startup is able to issue stock on public exchanges, and then VCs can then like get rid of all their stock on those public exchanges. But cryptocurrencies are legally ambiguous, and they're sort of not as tied to like one physical company that people could kind of arrest. And so a cryptocurrency startup issuing an ICO, instead of the VCs potentially having to wait years for a liquidity event, the VCs can start dumping on retail immediately. Like,
so basically, like if you are a VC investing in like a product, let's say, like
Yep.
you're like, wow, I think that this company that's developing this product
Yep.
is going to do really well.
Yep.
I'm going to invest like $100,000 and maybe I'll see a profit on it in like a couple years or whatever.
more than a couple, probably. I mean,
Right.
like 5 to 10 years.
Sure.
So
So
when
that's
you get
like
your
the
big liquidity event.
traditional kind of
That's
like
right.
venture capital
Yep.
investing model.
Yep.
But then with like crypto, it's just like, I'm going to invest in this and they're going to give me like initial coin offering, right? Like they're going to
The
give
VCs even get in before the initial coin offering.
Okay, so
I mean, they get
is
in the
pre-mine
in the-
before
yeah,
ICO?
I think you'd call it the pre-mine.
Okay,
Yeah.
so initial coin offering is like when the coin goes to be available for people to buy.
It's sort of ambiguous, but that's what I would think about it. I think there's like a pre-mine and then there's the big ICO.
Okay, so the traditional model, whatever, VC invests, the company makes profits, VC eventually sees some amount of profits.
Yep.
But with crypto land, VC puts in money and
Yep.
gets like pre-mined
30%
coins.
of the
Like,
coins.
You get 30% of all of the Dogecoin or whatever
Yep.
that's been made before anyone can even mine it.
That's right.
And
Yep.
then once it launches and like, people can mine it, people can buy it on like Coinbase
Yep.
or
And
whatever.
a lot of these ICOs like can't be mined at all. They're just
Right.
fully pre-mined.
And then like the price goes up and then you can just dump. So like the turnover for investment is so
Exactly.
fast.
I mean, it's a matter of months. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like VC puts money in, ICO happens like 2 or 3 months later, maybe even sooner. VC immediately starts dumping
Right.
coins into them, like pumping the price and dumping the coins, and they're just dumping on retail. And the VC can be in and out like before the coin like fails. The coin can
Right.
fail and obviously be completely worthless in like, I don't know, 6 months to a year. And the VC is already out at massive profit.
Right.
Yeah. And so
And this is like, when people see like influencers or whatever talking about cryptos, this is like a similar thing,
Yeah,
right? Where like the
totally. Yep.
influencers paid like in some amount of the coin and then like them marketing the coin
Yep.
to their followers
Yep.
causes
Yep.
it to go up and
Yep.
then they can
yeah.
dump.
Yep.
Is that a Ponzi scheme?
Not technically. Well, no, it is not technically a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme very technically is when, very specifically is when somebody takes investment from investors and pays out old investors their returns with new money that's coming in. So they
So
claim.
it kind of is.
Well, no, not really. I mean,
Because what causes the coin dollar amount to go up, right? It's new investors coming in and buying it.
right, but I mean, the coin in that case does have a market price. It's not like a Ponzi scheme is like I say that I'm selling stamps. I have this. I say that I have this business. You give me $1, and then later somebody else gives me $1, and I promised you a return, and so I pay you back $1.25 with the money that somebody has given me later. It's not like early investors that there's a thing that has a market price and early investors just get out before later investors.
But I feel like the profit model is like reliant on new people coming in,
Yes,
right?
but that is not what defines a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme is just more specific. Like
Sure.
for example, people toss around the word like, oh, it's just a pyramid scheme. Well, no, a pyramid scheme is a very specific kind of multi-level marketing scheme. which has the, it's like I give people the right to join the pyramid scheme in return for some money, and they get the right to get people into the pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
And so even though I would say that like, it's very like Ponzi-nomics, it's very, the economics are similar to a Ponzi scheme, just pedantically, it's not a Ponzi.
Ponzi's Ponzi-nomics.
It's Ponzi-nomics.
It's
yeah.
Ponzi-nomics.
A lot of Ponzi-nomics going on. Yeah. So yeah, 2000.
So that's 2017, 2018.
Yeah,
that's when we saw like the Bitcoin to 18K.
Just to talk about the incentives here, they're so insidious because for VCs, it's like this golden opportunity, and it incentivizes devs. I think a lot of devs probably who do ICOs, like they're not necessarily, they don't necessarily know that it's going to wind up losing people a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I think that they might just be working on projects and they see that VCs are willing to invest in a lot of money in ICOs. And they're like, okay, well, VCs like want this. Let me figure out how I can work a token into my product. And so I think a lot of devs are maybe like, not literally scammers. I think there are probably a lot of scammers. It's just, but they're incentivized to do this thing.
Well,
that's
it's like
structurally
if you,
a scam.
let's say you have like some blockchain project, which already fraught in my opinion,
Yeah,
but
for
whatever.
sure. Yeah.
You are making some blockchain project and you're like, well, it doesn't really need to have a token, but it's like, how else do you raise money?
Right.
You
Yep.
have to make a token.
You make a
that's just
token.
that's what VCs are used to. And that's
Yep.
what people expect. And
Yep.
they want that. They don't actually give a fuck about what project you're working on.
Yep.
They just want like
Yep.
that fast turnaround.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it is interesting. Like, we're sort of like accelerating fiat with crypto.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like fiat on overdrive.
Absolutely.
It's
yeah.
wild.
One thing that's crazy that just struck me is I don't think that literally anything useful came out of the 2017 ICO bull run. Like, I'm just thinking about, is there a single thing that is like not clearly useless that is from there? Like, I literally don't think so. I think it was all dog shit, and it all is like, has the, if you look at the price graph of these coins, they all have this like pump and dump.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't think that anything, like literally anything from that run is still around and providing any sort of utility to anybody. I mean, it's really shocking if you think about this, like billions and billions of dollars were poured into this and not a single useful product was delivered.
Well, when did Ethereum get in
Ethereum
the
was
scene?
older. Ethereum was older.
So
Ethereum was like
was around
2014.
and Ethereum just sort of pumped with kind of like the ICO boom.
No, well, yeah, Ethereum pumped with ICO boom because Ethereum was the vehicle for ICOs, but Ethereum was actually part of this earlier crop, this like 2014 crop of altcoins.
Okay.
Right. There was this 2014, like I'd call like quote unquote old school altcoins, mostly where people just modified Bitcoin a little bit. And Ethereum came out of that era.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe like, do you think people bought Bitcoin in 2018 that held on to it until 2020, 2021?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, Bitcoin always pumps when these other coins pump because I think that people get into Bitcoin and then they're looking for something else, but I don't think that they abandon Bitcoin because I think that people do understand that Bitcoin is like a store of value. A lot of people have Bitcoin bags, even if they're also have like shitcoin bags.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then
maybe there was some level of like people bought Bitcoin because of that.
I hope
came
so.
out of that.
Yeah. So then the next bull run was it 2019, 2020 or 2020, 2021?
2020, 2021.
Yeah. And so that was that was the DeFi NFT pump. Mm-hmm. So DeFi
and just like low interest rates, money printing.
Sure.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I really feel like that was COVID relief.
Right.
Bull run.
Right. The stimmy run.
The stimmy run.
Yeah. And that was all like DeFi is just a new way to package the same kind of Ponzi-nomics. I mean, not exactly the same, but so the same way to create something that has that Ponzi-nomic pyramid scheme kind of dynamic in the form of DeFi and like yield farming and like pools and stuff like that. Like,
Can you give more of a description than just the buzzwords for those who
Sure,
may not
yeah.
know what DeFi?
So yield farming is where somebody creates an on-chain pool of capital that they pay like yield on in a token.
So it's like a savings account with interest
Well,
kind of vibe.
Yeah, let me be more descriptive. So like
Yeah.
I create like 1 billion tokens, and then I say, hey, if you put your Ethereum, if you lock up your Ethereum in this contract, then I'll start giving you like yield in this token. Or you just lock up these tokens in this contract, I'll start giving you yield in this token. And people are like, if the token has some market value, then people will start depositing the token in this contract to get back more of the token. Mm-hmm. But the token can't survive all this new supply being sold. So if enough people like lose faith in the token and like withdraw it from this box and start selling it, like the market price will just be demolished. Mm-hmm. But as long as nobody's doing that, you can get more, you can put more tokens in this box, and your like nominal wealth will be increasing.
Yeah.
But it's all paper wealth, right? If everybody, you and me might think we have $1 million of this token, but then if we both go to sell on the market, we'll be tanking the price and we'll wind up with far less than $1 million of, Bitcoin or Ethereum or stablecoin or whatever the trading pair is.
Yeah, I remember during like 2021 on TikTok, there were so many viral TikToks about like insane like 1,000% yield coins. That people would be like, guys, check this out. Get in it while you can.
And this is like, I think it's really interesting. This is something that human beings are very susceptible to and have been susceptible to over long periods of time. Ponzi schemes they're very hard to, people just fall for them a lot.
Get rich quick.
Yeah. The most striking example that I can think of is that in Albania, after the fall of the Iron Curtain, in like the new sort of Albania, there were these massive Ponzi schemes that formed because people in Albania, I mean, especially at that time, they just thought this was what capitalism was. They thought that like 25% returns like month over month was just capitalism. And so they put their money into these giant Ponzi schemes. These giant Albanian Ponzi schemes got so large that when they collapsed, they plunged Albania into civil war.
That could be us.
Literally. They like Ponzi schemes plunged a country into civil war. The south of the country was in such chaos, and like the south of the country, like random people had like looted in the chaos that like ensued. Random people had looted arms from like military bases and armories in the south of Albania. And in the north of Albania, they were like, the people in the south all have weapons. It's all chaos. We need to open up the armories to let people just take guns.
Nice.
Because otherwise the north will be like, the citizens in the north will be overrun by the citizens in the south. All because of a Ponzi scheme. Like all because of these massive Ponzi schemes. And one of the people running the Ponzi schemes, it was a woman, I don't remember her name. When the scheme finally collapsed, they found her like in a dilapidated apartment with like no money. Like she ran it to like the very end.
Damn.
This like country destroying Ponzi scheme, and she never like got out and like fled the country.
See, that could have been Sam Bankman-Fried if he had just held on for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
We could
That actually kind of is Sam Bankman-Fried right now. I mean, he didn't make it.
But it's like, how many Americans actually used FTX and like lost their wealth? Not nearly enough to plunge us into civil war.
Yeah. So next
Good job
time,
with your effective altruism, SBF.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing that kind of contributed, I think, was NFTs. Like people got kind of hyped on NFTs, and there was a lot of.
I feel like NFTs really like that was like the influencer bubble as well. Is like a lot of like celebrities, influencers, artists, whatever, were like releasing NFTs, and people were like, this is a way that I can get involved because art speaks to me more than just like bleep bloop crypto.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think there's something, NFTs are very accessible. You don't really need to understand anything.
And you can see like people have them as your profile pictures. Yeah. And like whatever. It's like, I think just like the pictures really, the JPEGs.
People
really
love
takes
JPEGs.
it to a new level.
I mean, humans are really visual. We're very much visual creatures. Mm-hmm. And so if something is purely conceptual, like DeFi, it doesn't really connect with normies. But if it has a visual component, if they're like, oh, it's a thing, I can see it, I can imagine it being an object, that really connects with people.
To what extent do you think DeFi is like a part of the 2020, 2021 bubble?
Oh, I think a huge part of it.
Like, but why?
Oh, because it gave people Ponzi-nomics. All of a sudden, there were these new Ponzi schemes for people to participate in.
You just mean because there were new tokens, new projects? Like, what do you mean? What is it about DeFi?
DeFi, it's this yield farming thing. It's like, oh,
okay, I'm the yield farming.
Yeah, it's a combination of
Right.
I'm gonna make an ICO and I'm gonna create this Ponzi-like scheme to get retail incentivized to buy into
That
it.
does make sense, because I feel like when I was first getting into like crypto, I remember like a Cardano bro really sold me on Cardano, because he was like, we're going to make our own stake pool, and like we're going to have like decentralized banking in our communities on Cardano, and like we're going to do this in Africa. You know what I mean? Like I think
fucking Africans are going to be like opening up their Cardano wallet like
Yeah.
a fucking break,
I
bro.
feel like DeFi definitely, with the yield farming and the kind of like the decentralized finance, like we're going to like start a new financial system, like that kind of rhetoric definitely drew me in. And then it just like took me a while to realize like that was Bitcoin,
right.
like the answer to that path.
Yeah.
But I definitely can see, I think DeFi, like that sort of moral framework around DeFi drew in a lot of like devs that wanted to do good in the world, but didn't feel like, you know, people that were like, this is a way for me to change the world in a positive, that I can actually do something.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know?
Yeah.
So I think there was like, I don't know if DeFi, like if that sort of rhetoric around DeFi brought in retail investors. Like I don't think people were necessarily investing in DeFi because they thought it was this like world changing thing. But I think there were probably a lot of people who worked on it that wouldn't have worked on another crypto had they not been sold this narrative of like, we're going to turn things around in the third world with our decentralized finance yield pools.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And like, even if something isn't the primary motivating factor, it always helps if people can believe that they're doing good. Like
morally justify. Yeah.
Yeah. Morally justified, saving Africans, like whatever. Yeah.
So when moon?
When moon, I don't know. So potential narratives for next bull run. Obviously, inscriptions.
Inscriptions is number one.
Inscriptions is number one. Yeah. Inscriptions are, the ordinal project's way of essentially doing NFTs on Bitcoin.
Right.
Although I hate the term NFTs, so I refer to them as digital artifacts. I actually don't know how much inscriptions will have the same properties as NFTs, because they're very much focused on art and they're actually very expensive to create. Like you can't actually just mint a whole bunch of inscriptions out of nothing, because you have to pay transaction fees, non-trivial fees on every single inscription that you create.
Sure.
So I don't like it, they don't have, and all the art has to be on chain. And so you don't have this thing that with a single Ethereum transaction that you pay like $10 to $50 for, you mint an entire collection of 10,000 JPEGs. Like that same action using inscriptions on Bitcoin would cost the minter like thousands of dollars. Like it doesn't have the same pump and dump kind of thing. Obviously there will be.
So are you telling me inscriptions won't be responsible for the next bull run?
Listen, I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm saying. They kind of have mixed properties, right? Because on the one hand, like they're expensive to issue and they don't have the same ability to do super large collections that normal NFTs can do. But they are much cooler, and I think the actual use case is much more like honest. I mean, it's really much more focused on cool on-chain art and allowing devs and artists to make cool, interesting things. So who knows?
I think it's probably like more honest to what artists think they're doing with NFTs, in the sense that they're like, oh, I'm creating this like art that will exist forever. And like no one can, whatever, you own it. And that's proof that you own it. And there it is. It's like, well, actually, no, it's like not really like that in most NFT cases, but with inscriptions, it's like literally there. Yeah.
I think maybe the way that it could help the narrative for the next bull run is just people being like, look, Bitcoin has NFTs. Like, and there's been a narrative for a long time that I think is mostly true, where people have said, hey, any really useful thing that another cryptocurrency does, that an altcoin does, Bitcoin will figure out how to do it on Bitcoin and we'll just adopt it and we'll do it better. And I think that inscriptions is a really good example of that. People want NFTs. Inscriptions are the absolute best version of NFTs possible on Bitcoin. And I think there's other things. So like, for example, the Lightning Network is another example. People want fast payments, right? There are other altcoins that achieve this by very big blocks and very fast block times. And the Lightning Network does that for Bitcoin in a better way, in a much better, much more scalable way.
Right.
Another example, so the Lightning Network and adoption of the Lightning Network, I honestly think could absolutely be huge for the next bull run. Like if the Lightning Network starts to, I feel like there will be an inflection point with the Lightning Network where before that inflection point, it's not really that useful. It's not really that practical. And after that inflection point, all of a sudden it reaches that ease of use where all of a sudden people are like, oh shit, this is actually way better than all my other options for payment. And it'll just go ham.
I think that the Lightning Network, like that sort of like, you know, as I said before, the things that make it easier to adopt and to use, I don't think that that's going to be what like causes a pump. I think that's going to be what like sustains like after a pump. Like I think like,
oh, I don't know. What if you get some big names who are like, oh yeah, by the way, we accept Lightning now and it's just another one of our payment mechanisms and it's like no big deal.
Maybe, but what's the reason? I think the reason why like institutions or whatever would want to do that is because like, oh my God, this Bitcoin thing is worth so much money. We need to like make sure that we're allowing people to pay us in Bitcoin. And then if that's easy for them to do because like the infrastructure is there and they just kind of need to like plug in basically, then I think that's where you sustain. But I think the reason why institutions will adopt Bitcoin is because they think it'll be profitable for them.
Sure.
And I think that comes after a pump, personally.
Unclear. I mean, like, you know,
I mean, there could be some smart institutions that are like, oh, we should get in now, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think...
With that, I'm not really thinking of... With Lightning adoption, I'm not really thinking of institutions. I'm thinking of like random merchants.
Still,
like,
I think it's the same dynamic where it's like people want Bitcoin when Bitcoin is high. Just generally.
Oh, but the thing about Lightning is that Lightning is also a payments technology. And so if it has strong advantages over other payments technologies, speed, low fees, convenience,
but not if you think
uncensorability.
If you think that what you're getting paid in is not worth.
No, because if you just trade out, like you don't necessarily need to make a long-term bet on the direction of Bitcoin.
Sure.
I can be like, I'm going to get Bitcoin and Lightning, and then maybe I'm going to buy something else. I don't plan on holding it for very long, but as long as it holds the value that I receive for at least a little bit, it can be way better than the other payment technologies. You don't need to have a bet on Bitcoin.
I mean,
and it's independent of the price of Bitcoin, right? Because if I charge somebody $10 and I got $10 worth of Bitcoin, it doesn't actually matter to me how much it is, how many Bitcoin that is.
I mean, maybe, you know, something like Square, which like so many merchants use Square, right, for their payments. Like if Square makes it easy to accept payments in Bitcoin over the Lightning Network and also easy to like, you know, make it so that like maybe only a percentage is Bitcoin and then a percentage is dollars, like whatever it is, like that helps ease people, merchants into it. I agree with you. I could see that. I just don't think that that's going to be like a narrative that really like changes things.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, yeah.
I think that's the narrative that like makes it happen after the narrative. Like to me, I feel like the narrative is going to be more like political, financial, like system collapsing.
Yeah. Which brings us
low
to
interest
like,
rates, money printing, all of that again.
So like, yeah, no, I think you're right. Like, I think the big narratives are going to be, institutional adoption, like pension funds buying it, central banks buying it, like big players,
countries adopting it.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if country adoption is like the next thing, but I think if like people were like, all right, this is like a, you know, potentially something that can go up and is starting to have like store of value kind of properties and sort of in this unique asset class where they sort of feel confident that it's going to maintain some of its value and then maybe go up a lot.
I can also see like, I think with like central bank digital currencies emerging, I can see that like being like Bitcoin is the alternative. Yeah. Like if people get their CBDC, then
CCCP, DC.
There's CCP, DC. I think like if there's like a particularly like paranoid narrative around that, that also could increase adoption of Bitcoin. Like if people are getting their central bank digital currencies and they're like, well, damn, all of my transactions are now going to be monitored by the government. I could see something like that fueling adoption of Bitcoin.
Right.
Or Monero or whatever, you know, like it's, I'm not saying it'll point perfectly in the right direction, but I think like
Monero's not going to make it.
No,
Strong NGMI vibes.
Obviously NGMI, but I think it's like political and societal circumstances that cause people to look for something else or to like look into
Right.
like a future cryptocurrency world. What, you know, like I think there need to be dynamics that create desire in people to want to like own this thing. And I don't think that is like as simple as like maybe like the microeconomics of just like ease of purchase. Like I don't know. I feel like you definitely are more of like a micro econ person of just like, oh well, if the trade-off for this is easier than the trade-off for this, then like people are just going to adopt that, and then that's gonna like I think that increases adoption. I don't know that increases price action. Like I don't know if that's bull run.
Yeah, it's like yeah, people do adopt things when the trade-offs are better, but at the same time they also need to know about it.
Yeah.
There needs to be something that causes them to look
to
for
care,
it.
to want to like change. Because also changing currencies, especially for like Americans,
Very
is like
hard.
so crazy to them.
I don't think that I think a lot of Bitcoiners don't understand how sticky currencies are.
Yeah.
Like with Bitcoin's store of value use case, the network effect is not huge. You can use Bitcoin as a store of value, and if other people don't, well, when you want to buy Bitcoin, you just trade dollars for Bitcoin, and when you want to spend Bitcoin, you trade Bitcoin for dollars, and then you spend those dollars.
Yeah.
But for Bitcoin as a payment technology, the network effect is huge. If the stores that you want to spend at don't accept Bitcoin, then you can't use it as a payment technology.
Right.
Whereas you can independently adopt Bitcoin as a store of value. So
yeah, I think store of value will come at least to Americans before
absolutely.
payment. I mean, that's like the case for us, right? Like,
Yep.
you know, sometimes like I ask you to pay me back in Bitcoin or vice versa, and we're like, I'd rather hold on to my wealth. You know, like it's.
I will pay anybody in Bitcoin because if I give them dollars, that just means that I have to sell Bitcoin to get more dollars.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. But yeah, I mean, I think like for Americans that have like a relatively stable currency, it's just not as pressing.
Yep.
Whereas
Totally.
like if your currency is more volatile than the price of Bitcoin, then sure, why not use Bitcoin as a payment?
Yep.
But I feel like for Americans, especially because Americans also have like more wealth on hand to think about, like how do I retain this, and like housing is so fucking chaotic that like you can't really buy other assets as easily. I do think like Bitcoin as like an investment asset and store of wealth is something that will.
Yeah.
But that again, it's like that is hype.
Yeah.
You know, that's all hype.
Yeah. Bitcoin DeFi or
Actually, that's not necessarily true, because I think if your institution that you have your retirement account with, your investment account with, whatever, allows you to buy Bitcoin, that also increases like price, like trading. Like if hedge funds can trade Bitcoin more and they can trade in your pension fund or in your retirement account.
There's a little water down the wrong pipe. A little fiat moment over here.
Little fiat, so fiat. Yeah, wait, I didn't even get my vape. You haven't been vaping at all.
Oh yeah, it's true. Just like vapes out at 45 minutes.
It's vape day.
Yeah, vape day. Happy vape day, everybody.
Happy vape
By the way,
day.
Sunday is vape day.
Yeah. That's when we got our Sunday coffee and vape.
Yeah, once a week is a good schedule to engage in vices.
Except that you don't get the buzz you used to get.
No, not anymore. I got to start smoking crack or something. It's going to be crack day next Sunday.
A gateway drug.
One other thing that could be interesting for narrative and adoption is Bitcoin-based finance. I don't know how Bitcoin, like, not necessarily DeFi, but Bitcoin is like a useful tool for finance. If you want to like, you know, lend, you want to borrow, you want to use it as collateral. I think it requires more price stability than we have now, because a very volatile asset is less useful in finance. But if it maybe gets a little bit more stable, if maybe there are some stable coins that are very easy to swap for Bitcoin, like I don't know if Taro brings Tether to the Lightning Network, then maybe, you know, that would be a way that, I don't know, you could
Don't get Mark Goodwin. You know,
Yeah,
Mark Goodwin would hate to hear this.
No,
from you.
this is all Mark Goodwin's like thesis.
I know, but he's like, this is bad. He's like, this is going to happen and this is bad.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm uncertain whether it would be bad or not. But then maybe also like DLCs, discrete log contracts, which are a way of doing certain kinds of like options and futures on Bitcoin. Maybe there could be some of that. But the problem is that that stuff won't really have Ponzi-nomics, because it doesn't have these tokens minted out of nowhere. So it actually has to be useful for people to use it. And it won't just be like a a huge like frothy boom, like Bitcoin DLCs.
A huge frothy boom.
Yeah, huge all over your fucking face. Like there isn't going to be that kind of crazy hype over DLCs without anybody actually using it because it doesn't have that like Ponzi like nature. But maybe, who knows?
Astrologically speaking.
Yeah, let's get into the stars. Yeah. How does let's talk about everybody. When people talk about Bitcoin price action, they talk about going to the moon. Okay. What is the moon like? How does the moon play into this?
Well, the common moon trading strategy, like people use the moon for trading mostly. I mean, the moon cycle is 28 days, so it's not that long in terms of like predicting long-term price action. But the general idea is like a new moon is a local top and a full moon is a local bottom. That's like Marin Altman's whole thing, like crypto astrology girl.
Yep.
But I mean, I think the moon is good for like trading, but I don't think it's going to indicate. I think really like it's Aquarius stuff that's indicating Bitcoin price action. Like the 2020, 2021 bull run, all of those run-ups were correlated to Jupiter in Aquarius, which is not going to happen again for 12 years, 2032. But we have other Aquarius movements, namely Pluto entering Aquarius for the first time in 2023, which is like Pluto in Aquarius is, I think at the beginning of the episode, I said 2023, crazier astrology than 2021, 2022. 2020 is probably its like closest analog in terms of crazy astrology. And the main reason for that is that Pluto enters Aquarius this year.
Okay. Pluto is slow.
Yeah.
Like
Pluto's the furthest one out. So
Yeah.
Pluto takes 248 years to get the whole way around.
So now that Pluto is like not thought to be a planet, obviously this was a very like fiat determination. Does that affect the astrological status of Pluto at all?
No, because people so Pluto is a minor planet, technically, like astronomically.
Okay.
That was the demotion, is basically like, well, if you want to like not include all these other minor planets as a part of the planets, then you kind of have to demote Pluto.
I see. And what are those other minor planets? Those are other like objects that are way out there that they haven't cleared their orbit is the main thing, right? They exist in these giant debris fields. Isn't that it? That Pluto hasn't cleared its orbit?
It is. And like Pluto's moon, Charon, is also like kind of at similar size, and they sort of have like a co-orbit situation. So like Pluto's seems to be the primary body, but like Charon is also like pretty big. Like it's just kind of, it's still a gray area, I would say.
Yeah.
But the thing is that like astrologers do look at minor bodies. Like astrologers look at asteroids. Like I care a lot about asteroid astrology. So to me, it's like, I don't, like
Aren't asteroids just kind of like the shit coins of astrology?
Asteroids are more like they have more like particular mythology, I would say. Like the asteroids and their mythological associations are much more important because they're not like gods in the same. They're more like demigods and like whatever. Like I don't know if shitcoin is the fair comparison. It's like minor players.
Got it.
So like, if Pluto is like a minor player, like I still, Chiron is an asteroid that I use a lot astrologically. Like I use Pluto more than Chiron. I think Pluto has like a stronger effect. But like if Pluto's a minor planet, like that doesn't really disturb me.
Okay.
Like I don't mind that. I am interested to see big Planet 9 discovery out in the outer solar system someday. I do think that's going to happen in our lifetime.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But how, just astronomically speaking, how would we have missed it so far?
Because it's so far out that it's really hard to see.
Like but wouldn't it? But even if it was far out, wouldn't it catch light from the sun and then we would see it because of the
sometimes. So like basically, so the same guy that demoted Pluto also is the guy who believes he will discover Planet 9, the true Planet 9.
The true Planet 9. I see.
Also, my advisor's first graduate student. So the lineage is strong with me now being a Planet 9 astrologer. But basically, like, from orbits of like bodies in the outer solar system, it seems like there is a giant planet really, really far out, so far out that it would be very hard to see. And like based on our current estimates of its orbit, it would spend 15% of its time in a part of its orbit that like we couldn't possibly see with our current technology.
15% of its time, but then it's spending 85% of its time in a place that we
sure,
could see it.
But it could be in its 15% right now. Like we don't know where it is.
The orbit is so slow.
Yeah,
that
it's so far out
for the entire time that we've been observing.
Been able to see anything.
Interesting.
Right. So
interesting.
it could be in that period of time. Like it would spend.
So, but like how realistic is this? Is this like a
I
fringe
think it exists.
thing?
No, I think it exists.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like, does it really exist? Like,
yeah, I think a lot of people think it exists.
Okay, what's the evidence for it?
The orbits of smaller objects that orbit around the sun that have weird orbits that can't be explained for anything other than like a larger body that are pulling them out.
Interesting.
Something big has to be out there in the outer solar system
how
that's pulling
big,
these things.
like in terms of our existing planets, where
big,
would it be?
like really big. We don't know exactly.
Not like gas giant.
We don't know. Like that's the thing. Like we know that it has like a strong gravitational pull, but what it's actually made of or how big it is, like
damn,
we don't really know.
That would be so sick.
It's gonna
That'd be
happen.
so sick if we found a 10th
happen.
planet. Like, and that would be so dramatic. Like, imagine like it's in its 15% of its time that it can't be seen by the sun,
and then it just comes out,
just fucking cruises out behind Sol, this like new fucking thing.
Yeah, man,
that'd be sick.
Yeah. So why did I bring this up? Oh, because Pluto.
But it's definitely, if it was there, it would definitely be a planet, not like a star.
Planet. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Not a star.
Because that'd be
if it was a star, we could see it. It'd produce its own light.
But if it was behind the sun,
we go behind the sun.
Then why can't we see the planet behind the sun?
It's not that it's behind the sun. Okay, think about the dynamics of an orbit. Like we're going around the sun all the time. Nothing is like behind the sun for longer than an Earth year for us.
Okay.
It's the problem is that like if you're at the furthest point away in your orbit, because all orbits are like ellipses, right? They're not perfect circles. So if you're at apogee, which is like the furthest part of your orbit away from the sun, it's just far enough away that we can't see the reflected sunlight off of it using our current technology. The way that we see planets is reflected sunlight.
Yeah.
So if it's far enough away and the reflected sunlight is dim enough, we're not going to see it.
I see.
So
okay.
if it's in that 15%, like kind of like around the...
Oh, so you're not talking... I was like, oh, for 15% of the time, the sun is between...
No, because we go around the sun, so we would see
all right.
it.
I'm not an astronomer. Yeah. Okay, listen. So, but okay, I get it. So it's the apogee. You've got this like large, like oblong, like orbit, and the apogee is when it's really far away.
Exactly.
And if it's in this really far away part, the light would be so faint. But doesn't that mean that like an increase in the sensitivity of our telescopes, or we just point like like the James Webb, right? Mm-hmm. Presumably, like that can see super distant objects, very faint objects.
But the way that it sees it is it's either seeing stars, which produce their own light, or it's seeing like planets transiting stars, going in front of stars, that kind of thing. But the way that it sees,
but wouldn't it be able to possibly see some very dimly reflected?
So
right?
that's
but also the James Webb telescope, it has a very narrow field of view.
The 15% is based on James Webb estimates.
Interesting.
And I mean, they have like the group that's looking for Planet 9, like they have time on James Webb looking for it. Like they're going to find it. I think they're going to...
sick.
It's going to happen.
What are we going to call it?
I don't know. I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, that astrology is going to be fucking dope. Can't wait for... I want to be the first Planet 9 astrologer.
Yeah. You
Hence the name of my astrology brand, Planet 9 Astrology.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. I just thought it was like, something. Yeah.
No, yeah, that's why.
There's like a jiu-jitsu gym by this guy named Eddie Bravo, who's the like head coach.
I know him from Joe Rogan.
Yeah, it's called 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. So, but now it's really like
the name
9th Planet Jiu-Jitsu.
The name like oscillates between being Planet 9 and Planet X, much like how the iPhone just went from like iPhone 8 to like iPhone X. Like they just skipped 9.
Yeah.
Like it might become Planet X, not Planet 9.
That wouldn't make any sense.
But that's like... it kind of like if you look at numerology, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
People like to skip over the 9th part of like the completion cycle.
So, and this thing is way outside of the habitable zone. So it's going to be, it's going to be a cold, dead kind of thing.
Yeah. It's not going to like have a civilization on it.
Are there any conditions under which it could have, I mean, like could it have like a very thick atmosphere that causes it to retain
ice.
heat?
It's past the ice line.
Okay.
Which is what the gas giants are. The reason why the gas giants are like gas giants is because it's past like the ice line where like things that would normally be like gas liquid are ice.
I thought that the gas giants were just gas giants because of their size. That when you got above a certain size, they got to be gas giants.
I mean, it's like also it's kind of hard to say. Jupiter's a rare planet in terms of like the position. Most solar systems have a Jupiter, but most solar system Jupiters are not where our Jupiter is.
Wait, so why are planets gas giants and some planets are gas giants and some planets aren't?
It's many things, but a lot of it has to do with the ice line. Like, when do things get so cold that they become ice, and then they can like come together as like gas giant is still like.
Oh, I think I kind of see what you're saying,
like
right? Because like matter has 3 phases,
yeah,
right? Solid, liquid, and gas. And if you take a gas giant and you just move it out further, eventually you're going to move it past the point where all that matter, all that gas at the pressure is going to stay the same, right? And the temperature is going to drop. So eventually you're going to drop it below the phase where it then becomes liquid, and then presumably because it's cold, the liquid phase is really small. That's the habitable zone. I see. Earth. Yeah. But this, so but this thing, these are not water, and the habitable zone specifically refers to where Jupiter has water. Well, maybe. Well, it's like questionable. Interesting. Okay. But there's a lot of water in the outer solar system. For some reason, I just thought, I mean, obviously, kind of stupidly, that when a planet gets big enough, it becomes a gas giant. No, it has more to do. Well, it has more to do with temperature. Got it. Like, if you can imagine, like, you have like gas or liquid, water or helium or like whatever, it's not as easy to amass that into like a planetary body than if you have ice. Like, ice can like stick together and like coalesce. Oh, right. It also affects planet formation. Exactly. If you're past the ice line, it's much easier to form really giant planets because ice is going to like collect together easier than like gas. Otherwise, you might have in that orbit just a bunch of gas. Right. It's like you have a solid. It's not going to accrete. Exactly. Right. You could have the same amount of mass in that orbit, and it's just not going to accrete. There's other complicated factors, but that's a big part of it, is the ice line. Shit is wild, man. Shit's wild. It's like the 10th planet. Let's fucking go. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, I'm into excited. It. That'd be very exciting. Like, sometimes I feel like that's the next bull run. That's the next bull run. 10th planet. Yeah. 10th planet. It's got a big fucking orange bee on it. Yeah. I feel like I feel like as I've gotten older, an unfortunate side effect of getting older is that I feel like my level of mystery, the level of like mystery and wonder I feel about the world has decreased, because I think that's also like the time right now. Like, I think it's just getting older. I think it's the massive part of it is being older, because when I was a kid, when I was like 7 or 8, I thought that like there was a good chance that maybe there was some way you could become a magician, like, and actually like wield magical powers, or maybe God would turn out to be real, or like there would be weird like spiritual forces, or, when I imagined other countries, I didn't quite know what was in those countries. And now that I'm older, I'm like, okay, well, I've been to a lot of countries, so I kind of know what's in them. And if I go to a new country, it's probably not going to be completely insane. And I'm like pretty solidly an atheist. Like, all these things that used to be unknowns have sort of coalesced. Sure. And it's nice to understand the world. There are other benefits to understanding the world. But at the same time, the mystery has gone way down. Yeah. But the possibility of a 9th planet, even though it's probably just some fucking hunk of rock out there, definitely is like has a level of mystery, level of childlike wonder, where it's like, that's so cool. Like, I wonder what it looks like. I wonder what color it is. Like, I wonder like when it formed, like what its composition is. Like, well, if it's in the ice zone, like, isn't it true that you could have like liquid ice below the surface? Yeah, that'd be pretty rare though. Like, way out there with a planet of that size. Well, it's moons. Well, I mean, mostly like where we see the liquid beneath the ice is moons of gas giants rather than the gas. Although we have no fucking clue, like, what is going on under the gas giants. Yeah, like, that's inside interesting. The gas. We know. But it's so high pressure that like. Yeah, but we just don't know. Like, it's really hard. Like, once you get into like high pressure physics, it's like really, it's difficult to like you can kind of replicate it in a lab, but it's difficult to do. Yeah. I like that we just like brought up the vapes. Totally changed vibes. I think that is our that is our big prediction. Is the next bull run will start when we discover
that fucking planet in the outer solar system.
Planet X will trigger the animal spirits in the markets. Hyper Bitcoinization. Yeah.
Honestly, it could happen. I mean, so my sort of like astrological take on the bull run is I think we're going to see like some weirdness from March to June 2023. I'm not saying bull run. Like, I'm not saying like it could be fucking terrible. Like, I don't know. But I think Pluto entering Aquarius just for that like tiny little blip of time from March to June 2023, literally your birthday through like beginning to mid June. I think we're going to see like a lot of craziness, which could be a pump. I don't know. Then I think we're going to go back to like what we have right now, just sort of like sideways action, like whatever the fuck. And then I think it's not till 2024, once Pluto actually enters Aquarius for real, that we're going to get like another bull run. But then I think like we're going to have to wait till 2032 with like Jupiter in Aquarius and like with the Saturn Uranus cycles that I talked about in the Astrology of Bitcoin episode, like way back when.
Yep.
I think in terms of like hyper Bitcoinization vibes, we're not going to get that till 2032. And like 2032, I'm not even saying we're seeing hyper Bitcoinization, but I think like in terms of that like threshold that Bitcoiners look for, I don't think we're going to get that till 2032. Yeah, but I think 2032 looks good for it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I definitely agree. I think that hyper Bitcoinization is like going to take a while, you know? But yeah, we might get like 2 or 3 bull runs before hyper Bitcoinization.
Yeah,
you know?
for various weird reasons.
And the bull runs are going to get less exciting as Bitcoin like starts going into like it. I mean, it's unclear. Will the bull runs be less dramatic, or will Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is like becoming more established, harder to move the price, or will we get a point where it does start to get established, but then at that point, it kind of becomes clear to people all of a sudden, like, this is going to be the next world currency. This is it.
That's what
and then we get a crazy fucking spike.
That's what I'm saying. I think 2032 is like sort of more of like the collective realization vibe. Like right now it's like we're still so early, you know, like people don't understand the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. People don't really understand what fiat is. You know, I think 2032 is when we might start to see like fiat really unravel, and that becomes something that people like actually talk about and think about. Actually good like upcoming astrological event that people can use. January 21st, new moon in Aquarius at 0 degrees of Aquarius, which is where Pluto is going to be transiting during that like March to June time that I was talking about. If you have like some like age of Aquarius ass vision of like something you want to bring into the world or that you want to see happen, like use January 21st, which is a Saturday. I think we're posting this episode on Wednesday. It's not like the weekend after this episode, but the weekend after like next episode. So 2 weekends from now or whatever. Use Saturday to like manifest. So that can be like working on your, like you should work on ordinals on that Saturday.
I'll put it my
put in your calendar, work on ordinals. Like something that like really embodies and manifests the thing that you want to see over the next like literal 2 decades, like from now until 2044. Like, what is it that you're trying to bring into the world that's like in the spirit of decentralization, in the spirit of like individuality, but still within a collective? So that can be like for me, I'm like meeting up with like a group of people that are like spiritual hoes, and we're like doing Bitcoin astrology stuff, which is going to be very fun. Like whatever it is that you're trying to bring into the world or that you're trying to connect to or like channel, January 21st, Saturday, new moon in Aquarius. That's the time to like really set it in motion. And then when we're in like March to June, look back on like January 21st and like see how the recurring themes have come up. That's just like, I feel like for anyone who's interested in sort of like understanding how astrology can practically work in your life, like use January 21st, new moon in Aquarius intentionally. And then when we're in like the March to June period where it's all like the weirdness and craziness that I'm talking about, look back to that new moon and like see how the themes match up. Like, I think that's a way for people to like understand like what are the themes of like Aquarius, like age of Aquarius stuff that we're going to see. Like that's a way I think that people can actually connect it in their own head. Like, how does that show up for me? How does that show up in the collective? What can I look forward to or be afraid for the next like 2 decades?
Right. All right.
That's my
Let's go.
astrological
Yeah.
advice.
I think January 21, I'll do some sort of inscriptions workshop. I'll get some like artists or something, and we'll
Yeah.
we'll do some inscribing.
Yes, I love that. That's perfect.
Speaking of inscriptions,
Yeah.
inscriptions workshop at Bitcoin Park in Nashville in February as part of their free and open source software sort of theme that they have going on. Let me get the date.
Yeah, get the date.
For everybody who wants to come to Nashville.
Put a link in the description or whatever.
There's going to be a BDK workshop.
What's BDK?
BDK is a Bitcoin wallet toolkit that lets people build Bitcoin wallets in Rust. It has a lot of helpers for you to make a new wallet if you want to make a wallet. But yeah, and so there's going to be a BDK workshop on February 11th, earlier in the day, and then February 11th, 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time at Bitcoin Park in Nashville. I'm going to be having a inscriptions workshop.
Love
you can
that.
Create some digital artifacts on the Bitcoin time chain.
Yay. See, you're manifesting.
Oh yeah, I'm manifesting. Yeah.
You're like,
manifesting
there's no
hard.
mystery. I thought you could be a magician. Casey, you can be a magician.
It is. I actually,
It just like works its way into your life in like strange ways that you don't necessarily perceive.
Well, so when I was a kid, I was very depressed little kid. And I very moody little kid. And I desperately wanted magic to be real because I saw it as like this sort of escape from mundane reality. Like, well, if my life's kind of shitty, but if magic was real, then shit, I could be a wizard. And that'd
You're
be
like, I
fucking
want
awesome.
my Hogwarts letter.
Yeah, yeah, desperately. And then, but when I started to learn programming, that was very much like discovering that you can be a wizard.
It's true.
You can influence things far away from you. You can create, in a sense, you can know things from very far away, which is very akin to sort of a limited form of omniscience. You can affect things very far away, which is like a form of telekinesis. You can create automated things that work on your behalf, even when you're not interacting with them, very much like creating a golem of some sorts. You can interact with sound and light and all these different things that are normally the purview of spellcasting and witchcraft.
Bitcoin Daemon.
Yeah.
Bitcoin D.
Yeah. When I gave one of the graduation speeches when the CS kids all graduated, it was like me and like 3 other kids from the CS department, and I actually put on a wizard hat and gave the speech about how learning to program was like learning magic.
See, how can you say that magic is dead in your heart? It's
Yeah, well,
clearly not.
I did kind of discover it, for
You
myself,
did.
yeah, and also I think inscriptions are. I don't know. I think there is something really quite magical about inscriptions and
I
Renaissance.
agree. I think magic is real. It just works. It still has rules, and it's still a practice, and it works in like I think people just think that they can be like, I do magic, and like
yeah.
magic will happen. But
Yeah.
I think it requires like very intense intention and focus to work with magic.
Yeah, and sometimes the
January
way,
21st, baby.
January 21st. Yeah.
Actually, I did have a question that I was going to ask you in the beginning of the episode that I think suits now.
Yeah.
I want to know if I've influenced you as a person, Casey, because you're a very like set in your ways. Like you do things and
so.
you're like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
Sunday is vape day,
Yeah.
And I feel like I can definitely see obviously the influence you've had on my life, hence me fucking drooling on this podcast. Like,
Yeah.
but have I influenced you?
Yeah, I think like just being more social and being like we have our little like sort of Bitcoiner like friend group, and I don't think that I'm normally the kind of person who would necessarily be good at like keeping up with people or like staying in a friend group, but because of knowing you and like having our Bitcoin friends and being like, no, I want to actively be in that group, I think it's made me more like social.
Cute.
Yeah. But I also think that probably ways in which you've influenced me are like not necessarily detectable. Like I think the other direction, like how I've influenced you, I think it's probably like in some like sort of obvious ways. Like I go like, oh, democracy is bad.
Yeah. And I'm like,
then you're like,
maybe democracy is bad.
yeah. And then you start like, holy shit, like I can't unsee it, you know? But then when you influence me, I think it's more of like a psyop that like I don't even notice.
Yeah.
And like things about me and my behavior just change. And like I'm not necessarily even aware of it.
A woman's touch.
Exactly. A woman's touch. Exactly. Yeah.
The feminine mystique.
Feminine mystique. Yeah. Your feminine wiles.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Just slowly changing things.
Yeah. Dark yoni energy.
Exactly. My dark yoni energy being like, Casey, you work on inscriptions on
Dark yoni
January
magic.
21st. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we end it?
Yeah, let's call it.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah, 2023. Let's fucking go. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's going to be a good year. As
It's gonna
always,
be
like
wacky.
people are building on Bitcoin in the bear market, unabated.
We're building our podcast in the bear market.
Building our podcast in the bear market. So when people start looking for Bitcoin podcasts, we're going to be established.
And we're going to
you
be
know?
established.
OG
baby.
status.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, I guess we'll see you guys next week.
See everybody next time.
Hi. Happy 2023.